My name is Mimi Williams, and I'm working very hard to be the next City Councillor for Ward 7. Well, I'm running because I believe that I'm the best candidate for the job. I think that we need to have a council that reflects our city. We need a council not just with more women on it, but with people that have the lived experiences of needing to use city services. We're always electing people who have never applied for a low-income transit pass or who've never had to rely on subsidized services for their children. And I've had to do that. And I think it's important that the people that make those decisions have actually had to live through them as well. So I have a background in political science. I have an honors degree in political science from the University of Alberta, and I went to graduate school where I studied the ways in which municipalities in the Edmonton region might work better together to improve services for their citizens at a lower cost. So I believe I'm very qualified for the position. I've run before, and the reasons I've run is if I can't find someone else that I can support. And you know, in this election, I've been talking about racism and police carding and issues around poverty and issues around people fitting into the community that might be new to the community. And I've had those lived experiences. So I'm driven by my own personal experiences, but in a more communal way, because I know I'm not alone with some of the struggles that I've had, and I want to make sure that the people who are just trying to make their way through a day have a good, strong voice on council. Well, one of the biggest problems was just announced today was the closure of the Coliseum and what's going to happen with Northlands, the site in the future. And this is something that I've been working on for 10 years because I insisted that City Council address those questions before they sunk hundreds of millions of tax dollars into a new arena for the Edmonton Oilers. And now we are faced with that today, where we're going to see hundreds of people lose their jobs and have uncertain futures. So that is a very big issue in Ward 7 because Northlands sits right in the middle of it. Also, what people have been telling me when I've been knocking on their doors, petty crime is a real big problem throughout the ward. Petty thefts, vandalism, these affect our quality of life. So I'm a big proponent of maybe looking at, we've got a thing called the social determinants of health. We look at that for individuals, but I think we can apply that to communities and start trying to find ways to engage our youth and a little bit more, keep them out of trouble. We need to have good recreational programs and facilities to keep our kids safe and to guide them down a better path than one of disorder and crime. Speeding traffic is a big concern throughout the ward, and I'm a proponent of Vision Zero. I'm concerned that our city adopted the brand but didn't adopt any of the principles behind it. So I'll be working very hard to make sure that pedestrians and cyclists and skateboarders feel just as safe as car drivers do. Well, I've been a media commentator and a journalist in this city, writing on issues affecting the city for years and years. So I've taken strong positions on things, and I'm not afraid to do so. I'd say that some of the other candidates are a little vague on why they're running, whereas I've been perfectly clear. So I expect to bring a stronger voice for people who are disadvantaged in our community. I need to be convinced based on evidence, not emotion. And I will always put people first before multinational corporations and developers. And that's something that's very different from my competitors. Well, I've got a great deal of empathy, and you know, a lot of the communities we've got a very diverse community. So we've got literally mansions in Ward 7 and some of the poorest people in our city. I've been on both sides. I've had great jobs. My spouse has a great job. I've had a comfortable life, but I've also struggled. I raised my 2 children in Alberta Avenue on my own as a single mom while I was a university student. So I know what it's like to do without. I'm proud during that time to have been part of the group of people that started the hot lunch program for Edmonton schools, and that program is still running 20 years later, feeding thousands of kids every day. I did that not because my kids were going without lunch, but because I knew my neighbors' kids were. And it's very important that we feed our children so that they can learn. So I think I've got a proven track record of looking at problems and finding creative ways to solve them. In that case, I even managed to get Ralph Klein, who was busy cutting everything he could at the time, to give up some money to start that program, and it remains one of my proudest accomplishments. I really want to strongly encourage people to get out and vote. It's the one day when you're equal with everybody else. It doesn't matter if you're a millionaire or living on the street. Your one vote is equal to everyone else's vote. And the reason that people's interests aren't represented at City Council is because City Council knows you don't vote. And if you want them to care about the things that matter to you, affordable transit, appropriate recreational opportunities for your children, then it's very important that you use your power on October 16th and get out and vote.